The woman successfully helped her husband become president, becoming the first lady herself. Shortly after his election, he shockingly announced he wanted a divorce. Over the years, Cha Soo-yeon had meticulously planned to achieve her dream of becoming the first lady, hoping to elevate her husband to the presidency one day. 15 years earlier, she had focused on getting him into the National Assembly. A week before the election, her husband, Hyun-min Cheo, was negotiating labor issues at a factory when a fire broke out, injuring many, including him. Cha Soo-yeon, lightly injured, stayed by his side after waking up. His successful surgery, possibly aided by her prayers, saved his life, though he suffered a permanent leg injury. With the election a week away and his prospects dim, Cha Soo-yeon actively campaigned for him, promoting his ideals among the public. Her efforts paid off, and Hyun-min Cheo was elected to the assembly. 15 years later, she aimed to make him president. At the climax of a fiercely competitive election, with a narrow vote margin against another candidate, Hyun-min Cheo unexpectedly missed a crucial live TV debate. While his campaign team searched for him, he was in the morgue at a hospital, mourning a woman whose death deeply affected him. Fortunately, they found him, and after regaining composure, he delivered a powerful speech, sharing personal stories of sorrow and warmth, highlighting his wife's steadfast support. Additionally, he called on his opponent to join him in promoting a public safety bill, believing its passage would bring hope to the people and change to society. Hyun-min Cheo's heartfelt speech received thunderous applause. At home, Cha Soo-yeon had anticipated the election results and was selecting clothes and shoes fitting for a first lady. After years, her long-held wish was being fulfilled. She chose a white dress and red high heels, a combo that perfectly matched the first lady's dignified yet passionate image. As expected, Hyun-min Cheo won the election, reaching the pinnacle of power. However, Cha Soo-yeon's attention was drawn to the new, young stylist, Lee Hwa-jin. She scrutinized the lipstick Lee wore, tried it, and then returned it, saying such a color only suited naive girls like Lee. She subtly warned Lee to not touch things or people that weren't hers. Lee, unfazed, stared back at Cha Soo-yeon without apology. That night, Cha Soo-yeon headed to a square filled with her fans and supporters, where she and her husband were to give a victory speech. Yet, seeing her husband's huge campaign posters on the way, she remembered something else. Just the day before the election, she attended her daughter's school entrance ceremony as a parent. There, other parents praised her looks and eagerly asked for photos, hoping she would look after their children. Also attending the ceremony was Hyun-min Cheo's female secretary, a loyal chief of his campaign team. Her son and Cha Soo-yeon's daughter were classmates. In the classroom, Cha Soo-yeon quietly questioned the secretary about an unexplained cancellation of Hyun-min Cheo's schedule last week. Despite her request, the secretary had not provided any investigation results, causing Cha Soo-yeon to distrust her. During the ceremony, Cha Soo-yeon gave her daughter a bouquet. However, her daughter, Hyun-ji-ryu, was unhappy, knowing her mother attended the ceremony the day before the election to garner votes. Hyun-ji-ryu, tired of her mother's calculated ways, wanted to escape. On the ride back, Hyun-ji-ryu expressed her desire to study abroad, having received an interview invitation from an overseas art school. Cha Soo-yeon asked her to wait until after the election, prioritizing political interests over her daughter's wishes. Hyun-ji-ryu resented this family atmosphere, even claiming her parents' seemingly sincere campaign speeches were all lies. In a heated moment, Cha Soo-yeon slapped her daughter, who retaliated by revealing she had seen her father with another woman. Upon hearing of her husband's affair, Cha Soo-yeon was neither angry nor sad, but extremely calm, asking if anyone else knew. Hyun-ji-ryu, realizing her mother had known about the affair, was baffled at her mother's choice to ignore her husband's betrayal for the sake of her status as the First Lady. Cha Soo-yeon sternly reminded her daughter to keep the affair secret, highlighting the potential disaster a scandal could bring now that her husband was president. Seeing her daughter's defiant attitude, Cha Soo-yeon even pleaded with her to forget what she had seen. Now, recalling the previous day's events, Cha Soo-yeon maintained a clear mind and measured confidence as she entered the square filled with shouting fans who saw her as an idol and pillar of strength. With a practiced smile and dressed in her white dress, she moved through the crowd, shaking hands with one supporter after another. Moments later, Hyun-min Cheo met his wife amidst the crowd. Unaware of the impending crisis, Cha Soo-yeon had prepared a video for the pre-speech display on the plaza's large screen. It showed her husband rebuilding his life after the factory fire, with her constant support and encouragement. The video, documenting their deep bond, ignited enthusiastic applause from the fans. Cha Soo-yeon hugged her husband tightly as they reached the pinnacle of their journey. Suddenly, she noticed a man in the crowd throwing a tomato at Hyun Min Cheo. Without hesitation, Cha Soo-yeon shielded her husband. The man, a former factory worker, accused them of causing a colleague's death, branding them murderers. Wearing her red high heels, Cha Soo-yeon stepped over the smashed tomato and confronted the man, who spat at her and was dragged away shouting threats. Her protective act won the crowd's admiration once again. Amidst cheers, Cha Soo-yeon, smiling, held her husband's arm and kissed him on camera as the fans requested. But she could never have anticipated that after the kiss, her husband would suddenly ask for a divorce. Shocked, she heard the word divorce from him but remained calm, firmly stating she would not consider it. Hyun Min Cheo was utterly disappointed with her reaction. Since the incident, she hadn't even inquired why he wanted a divorce, only opposing it outright, which he could no longer tolerate. On the ride back, Hyun Min Cheo repeatedly complained to his secretary about his wife. Their marriage of 20 years had become unbearable for him, even to the point where he could not stand drinking the water she prepared. At this moment of crisis for Cha Soo-yeon, their daughter Hyun Ji-ryu was also rebelling. At home, Hyun Ji-ryu was fixated on a necklace that belonged to her close friend, Lee Hwa-jin. Once inseparable like sisters, their relationship had soured over an incident. That evening, Hyun Ji-ryu caught Lee Hwa-jin sneaking into their house and searching her mother's closet in the dark. When confronted, Lee Hwa-jin admitted she was looking for her lost necklace. Hyun Ji-ryu questioned why her necklace was in their house, to which Lee could not provide an answer but realized Hyun Ji-ryu had found it. Lee demanded it back, but Hyun Ji-ryu refused, and the argument led to both girls tumbling down the stairs. Cha Soo-yeon, upon hearing of her daughter's accident, rushed to the hospital. Fortunately, her daughter's injuries were not severe. In the hospital room, Cha Soo-yeon brought up a bill to her husband. As soon as he became president, Hyun Min Cheo had prioritized this bill, which was related to the factory fire 15 years ago. He aimed to uncover the truth and seek justice for the affected workers. However, Cha Soo-yeon viewed the fire as a thing of the past. She believed politics should focus on the present and future, not dwell on old events. Unable to agree with her perspective, Hyun Min Cheo, now the highest authority as president, was determined to change the unfortunate state of affairs. Cha Soo-yeon shifted the conversation to their daughter, arguing that her husband should never have let their daughter discover his affair. At that moment, Hyun Ji-ryu woke up and confronted her father about his infidelity, producing Lee Hwa-jin's necklace as evidence. She had witnessed her father's indiscretion with Lee in the closet and found the necklace that night. Hyun Min Cheo attempted to explain, but Hyun Ji-ryu didn't believe him. Instead of arguing further, he asked for the necklace back, wanting it returned to Lee. Hyun Ji-ryu, infuriated, threw the necklace to the ground, unable to accept her father anymore. Inappropriately, Hyun Min Cheo chose that moment to announce his intention to divorce Cha Soo-yeon. Cha Soo-yeon took her husband outside, agreeing to a temporary separation but firmly ruling out divorce. She believed that without her, his presidency would be unstable. Hyun Min Cheo mentioned an investigation into a Mr. Yang, with whom Cha Soo-yeon allegedly had a symbiotic relationship involving political funds. The current president was intensifying the investigation due to dissatisfaction with the bill Hyun Min Cheo was pushing. Cha Soo-yeon realized her husband wanted a divorce to distance himself from her to facilitate the bill's passage. She urged him to abandon the bill, suggesting that doing so would solve all their problems. However, Hyun Min Cheo was determined to see the bill succeed, even at the expense of their marriage. Cha Soo-yeon suspected that the divorce might not only be about the bill, but also involved Lee Hwa-jin. Hyun Ji-ryu felt it unfair for her mother, who had worked so hard to support her husband's presidential ambitions. Tears fell as she contemplated her parents' looming divorce, something she had never expected to happen. Cha Soo-yeon assured her daughter she would not divorce, no matter what. The butler called to report that Lee Hwa-jin, staying in the neighboring hospital room, had left the hospital without notice. Cha Soo-yeon hurried downstairs to look for her but slipped and fell on the stairs. She took off her red high heels due to the fall and continued to the parking lot with a bruised leg. There, she saw her husband talking to someone and promising to end his relationship with his wife. To her dismay, the person he was speaking with was Lee Hwa-jin. Under security escort, the soon-to-be president Hyun Min-cheo visited a noodle shop run by a grandmother, a familiar face and a longtime donor to the orphanage. Hyun Min-cheo and many factory workers came from that orphanage, viewing the grandmother as family. He cherished the memories of time spent with her and his fellow orphans. The previous day, the deceased he visited in the hospital was an aunt from the orphanage who had cared deeply for him. He remembered her bright smile and the devastating fire that changed everything. While he was talking to the grandmother, a lawyer interrupted. The lawyer referred to the man who threw a tomato at Hyun Min-cheo the day before, a former co-worker and someone close to the grandmother. The man had been arrested, and the lawyer, also from the orphanage and supported by the grandmother, hoped to negotiate his release. However, Hyun Min-cheo did not continue the topic but instead asked the grandmother to serve the lawyer a bowl of noodles. After eating, as usual, she handed Hyun Min-cheo a bottle of milk and reminded him not to use his power to protect friends. The lawyer was puzzled why the grandmother did not plead with Hyun Min-cheo, who could have easily ordered the man's release with just a word. Surprisingly, behind the scenes, the grandmother spoke ill of Hyun Min-cheo, stating he had not yet paid for his crimes. She even scattered rice at the doorstep, hoping to dispel the misfortune Hyun Min-cheo brought. Meanwhile, Hyun Min-cheo had established his own transition team. However, during an interview with reporters, a delivery truck suddenly arrived, bringing several boxes. One reporter quietly approached and snapped a photo, discovering a document that appeared to be a divorce agreement, with Cha Soo-yeon listed as the sender. This immediately caused a media frenzy, igniting a scandal about the presidential couple's divorce. At the same time, Cha Soo-yeon was at the hospital for her daughter's follow-up appointment. When news of the media blockade reached her, she immediately attempted to escape the hospital with her daughter. However, the reporters, relentless in their pursuit, followed by car. For both political reasons and to protect her daughter, Cha Soo-yeon sped up, and unexpectedly, a car accident occurred. To avoid reporters, Cha Soo-yeon and her daughter were in a car accident. During the accident-induced coma, Cha Soo-yeon remembered her childhood. As a child, her mother faced similar pursuits by reporters who suspected her mother of being an affair partner of a candidate and Cha Soo-yeon as his illegitimate daughter. Despite her mother's efforts to protect her, reporters broke into their home and harassed them. The same happened after the accident when reporters swarmed Cha Soo-yeon and her daughter, taking photos aggressively. Fortunately, their injuries were minor. After treatment, Cha Soo-yeon, fueled by determination, went to her husband Hyun Min-cheo's office. In the office, Hyun Min-cheo brought up divorce, suggesting it to avoid a scandal. But Cha Soo-yeon returned the divorce papers, expressing her desire to keep the marriage. She asked him to reconsider their 20 years together. However, Hyun Min-cheo was unyielding. Heartbroken, Cha Soo-yeon left and discovered from the secretary that he had exposed the divorce papers to the media. To protect her status as First Lady, Cha Soo-yeon contacted a renowned TV journalist and appeared on a show. She clarified her relationship with Hyun Min-cheo, emphasizing their mutual support over their marriage, and accused him of betrayal after his election. She stated her intent to protect her family as a devoted wife and mother. Unexpectedly, the reporter suddenly mentioned Cha Soo-yeon receiving substantial political funds from President Yang. Cha Soo-yeon was surprised as she had specifically requested not to discuss President Yang when she arranged to appear on the program. The reporter had agreed, but now betrayed her by pressing her on live TV. Cha Soo-yeon tried to stay calm, but a breaking news segment aired, announcing that Hyun Min-cheo had filed criminal charges against her for violating privacy laws by planting listening devices in his pen and thermos over 20 years. The reporter grilled Cha Soo-yeon about the eavesdropping, suggesting it led to their marital breakdown. Visibly shaken, Cha Soo-yeon admitted to the eavesdropping, stating it was to protect her husband, a politician. She emphasized her dual role as his wife and political partner. The reporter fiercely contested her justification, accusing her of making excuses. Realizing the situation was against her, Cha Soo-yeon did not argue further and hurriedly ended the broadcast. In the parking lot, reporters had already surrounded her. She ran, and a man waved her into his car. He introduced himself as Attorney Kang, who had defended a man from a tomato factory and was seeking Cha Soo-yeon's leniency for his client. Unwilling to engage, she left the car and took a taxi, but Kang insisted he would not give up. Meanwhile, Cha Soo-yeon's daughter, Hyun-ji-ryu, had her stitches removed at the hospital, where she saw a mother and daughter, reminding her of her own childhood. Hyun-ji-ryu wished for those happier times, but seeing the news of her mother on the show and hearing people's comments, she could only smile bitterly. In fact, the reporter's actions on today's show were orchestrated by Hyun Min-cheo's secretary. The secretary set up the discovered listening devices in front of Hyun Min-cheo, suggesting that he sue his wife on various charges. However, Hyun Min-cheo became angry. He sought divorce to protect, not harm, his wife and definitely did not want to see her jailed. He firmly told his secretary to stop, unwilling to see similar tactics used again. To Hyun Min-cheo, the divorce was not a betrayal nor for political gain, but a silent way to protect his wife. Currently, the sitting president is investigating the alleged benefits transferred between President Yang and Cha Soo-yeon. Hyun Min-cheo knows the president's ultimate target is him, not his wife, so he cannot push her to the edge. He believes divorcing and distancing himself from Cha Soo-yeon is the best protection for her. Yet, the situation seems to be spiraling out of control, and Hyun Min-cheo is anxious, unsure of the best course of action. Cha Soo-yeon returns home, where reporters also crowd the entrance. She goes straight inside and immediately vomits. Normally strong, she now cries and lies in bed all day, not eating or drinking, seemingly having lost her resolve. After not eating or drinking for several days, Cha Soo-yeon finally managed to get up from her bed. Her phone was flooded with missed calls and messages from the media. Looking at her disheveled reflection in the mirror, Cha Soo-yeon's memories took her back to her childhood when she witnessed her mother being fatally stabbed. Recalling that moment, she smashed the mirror in front of her and changed her expression to one of determination, vowing not to end up like her mother. That night, Cha Soo-yeon regained her resolve to keep fighting and visited a law firm for professional advice on her divorce. She stated that her husband's presidency owed much to her efforts, and she deserved half of everything he had gained. The lawyer advised against divorce, warning that she would lose all privileges of being the first lady. Given the circumstances, the lawyer suggested she counter her husband's claims aggressively. Cha Soo-yeon was resolute not to give up, even though it was a tough battle. However, after receiving a call, the lawyer abruptly dropped her case. Cha Soo-yeon suspected her husband's interference and sought other lawyers. After several attempts, no lawyer was willing to take her case, leaving her deeply frustrated as if all exits were blocked. Adding insult to injury, she received a call from her daughter's teacher about her daughter getting into a fight at school. The truth was, her classmates had provoked Hyun-ji-ryu by mocking her mother as a dethroned queen, which led to her outburst. Cha Soo-yeon visited the school to apologize on behalf of her daughter to the student and their parents who were hit. However, the parents insisted on expelling Hyun-ji-ryu. At this point, the school's chairman, Cha Jeong-ryeon, who is Cha Soo-yeon's half-brother and Hyun-ji-ryu's uncle, intervened and settled the issue. Cha Jeong-ryeon is the son of Cha Soo-yeon's father's legal wife. While resolving the matter, Cha Jeong-ryeon also advised Cha Soo-yeon to quickly settle her divorce with Hyun Min-cheo. Cha Soo-yeon realized her husband was pushing for divorce, even using their daughter as leverage. However, she was only partially correct. Hyun Min-cheo did contact Cha Jeong-ryeon, but only to ensure his daughter was taken care of, not to pressure his wife. The next day, during a lunch meeting attended by Hyun Min-cheo and a defeated presidential candidate from another party, secretaries from both sides whispered about Cha Soo-yeon's scandal of eavesdropping on her husband. It was revealed that Cha Soo-yeon's father had once arranged for someone to monitor her, and she had turned the tables by having her watchers spy on her husband instead. After the press conference, Hyun Min-cheo privately spoke with Miss Before Anyone Else, his former electoral rival, inviting her to become the prime minister in a bipartisan cabinet. To show his sincerity, he planned to place members of Miss Before Anyone Else's party in charge of public institutions. Miss Before Anyone Else initially refused, suspecting this was a diversion from his divorce controversy. Hyun Min-cheo promised benefits to Miss Before Anyone Else, and openly stated his hope to collaborate with her to pass legislation quickly with her support. He shared that his motivation in politics, leading to his presidency, stemmed from a factory accident that injured a co-worker, which was unfairly blamed on the individual. Moved by Hyun Min-cheo's dedication and honesty, Miss Before Anyone Else eventually agreed to cooperate. At a press conference, Miss before anyone else stated to reporters that she is actively considering forming the next government with Hyun Min-cheo and is currently facilitating related legislative agreements. Hyun Ji-ryu, her daughter, is packing to go study abroad soon. Cha Soo-yeon noticed her daughter wasn't wearing the necklace she had given her. Hyun Ji-ryu suspected that the necklace might have been stolen by stylist Lee Hwa-jin, who had been rummaging through her house that night. However, the stylist reported that Lee Hwa-jin had suddenly resigned. Complicating matters, Cha Soo-yeon received numerous messages from reporters who were aware of Hyun Ji-ryu assaulting a classmate at school, as the video had inexplicably been leaked. Soon, the entire city had seen the video, leading to widespread criticism of the president and his family online. Caught in a media storm, Hyun Min-cheo contacted his secretary to find out more. The secretary discovered that someone had hacked into the girl's cloud storage to access the video. Hyun Min-cheo asked his staff to try to take down the video, but they advised him to issue a national public apology to preempt further escalation of the situation. Despite agreeing, Hyun Min-cheo decided not to rush into a press conference but to wait for the right moment. Later, Hyun Min-cheo contacted his secretary again, questioning her involvement in the video leak, as it concerned his daughter's future. He threatened to hold her accountable if she was behind it. The secretary denied any involvement but hinted that it might be related to Cha Jong-ryeon, who wanted the position of Minister of Education in exchange for covering up the video incident. The secretary promised to handle the situation, but Hyun Min-cheo sternly reminded her to only act as a messenger and not make decisions like before. Though the secretary agreed outwardly, she was secretly colluding with Cha Jong-ryeon. In the evening, Cha Jong-ryeon contacted Cha Soo-yeon, who mentioned that her daughter's plans to study abroad were compromised due to the negative impact of the video, causing the school to withdraw its recommendation letter. Later, when Cha Soo-yeon met with Cha Jong-ryeon, he suggested that if she wanted her daughter to go abroad smoothly, she would need to sign the divorce papers. Cha Soo-yeon believed this was her husband's tactic to force her into divorce by pushing their daughter to the brink. Seeing Cha Soo-yeon's hesitation, Cha Jong-ryeon then contacted a reporter, threatening to leak the school incident, and deliberately stated in front of Cha Soo-yeon that he planned to go on a show. For her daughter's future, Cha Soo-yeon felt compelled to compromise and eventually agreed to the divorce. The next day, with the divorce papers in hand, Cha Soo-yeon had a final negotiation with her husband. Before signing, she asked the secretary and lawyer to leave so she could speak privately with her husband. Alone, she reminisced about their first meeting at an election support event 20 years ago. Cha Jong-ryeon, as the legitimate son, was pushed by their father into a high position as a candidate for parliament. In contrast, Cha Soo-yeon, despite managing her brother's campaigns and doing much political work behind the scenes, was never given due recognition because she was an illegitimate daughter. All the glory went to Cha Jong-ryeon, who had mocked her ambitions in politics and called her a mere helper. At that event, Hyun Min-cheo criticized their father's actions as a legislator and condemned then-President Yang as a shameful heir. He accused Cha Jong-ryeon of serious offenses like drunk driving and assaulting an officer, urging the audience to vote for him, vowing to change the city and fight for workers' rights. While everyone else scoffed, Cha Soo-yeon approached him before he was dragged away, confidently stating she would vote for him and help him become a congressman. 20 years later, Cha Soo-yeon had elevated her husband to the presidency. She warned him that her strength was in making the impossible possible. After her speech, she tore up the divorce papers, declaring she could make or break her husband. Moreover, she vehemently stated that from now on, she would solely protect her daughter, Hyun Ji-ryu. Before leaving, she returned the signed pen to the lawyer and warned the secretary not to touch her daughter again, stating she would not be lenient.